So apologies for that slight setback. So just jumping back to the holding slide here. So the main purpose of today's presentation is just to introduce you guys to some of the most common challenges that we get from some of our partners, and then how we look to overcome those using Search Ads 360. So let's deep dive into that. Just going to quickly move over the parts that we've covered already. So just breaking up the structure of those three key benefits in terms of automating campaign management. Some of the most common challenges are we spend too long on managing keyword coverage and ad copy, or perhaps they spend too much budget on out of stock inventory. And as we know, that doesn't necessarily have to be retail inventory, it can be non-retail, or we are often caught out by recurring account hygiene problems. So how Search Ads 360 can help, as just listed here, to bring some of these to life. So inventory management, Jamie will be taking you through in detail in a moment's time. Ad builders are a series of templates that you can build out, and a single template can then push out ad copy to every single ad group across multiple engines. Pretty scalable. Massive benefit is around time saving, but also then you get accuracy across what's put out. So there's not going to be any ad groups that are missed, and also consistency in terms of contents. Now, it does sound like there's a risk of that being quite static and standard messaging across all of your ad copy, or all of your ad groups, sorry, across all of your engines. But actually, there is scope to make those fields very dynamic. Going back to the initial point around having a central interface, which you plug in all sorts of different data points, you can call forwards the majority of those data points in your ad builder templates. Inventory management, we just mentioned, will come shortly. And then in terms of the final solution here, rules, formula columns, and labels, doesn't sound like the most exciting of solutions that we'll talk about today, but actually super important, and again, super scalable across all of your engines. So you could use a single rule perhaps to notify you of when you see cost or impression spikes, be that at keyword scope or more further higher up, whether it's at campaign level or account level. You could also manage entities as well. So if you do see a cost or impression spike, for example, then you could have an output of bid changes or budget changes. Labeling as well, you can automate so that you have consistency across all entities. And also reporting. So if you want to get a weekly download, for example, of high spenders that are non-converting, you can essentially recreate that with rules and layer similar fashions over them. So I'm just going to hand over to Jamie to talk through inventory management.
Hello, everyone. So this is probably my favorite feature in our tool. I think when we talk about the scale, complexity, and frequency that of changes required in search accounts, it's a lot to stay on top of. We know on average, search professionals spend about 8 hours a week on this type of work. It's not particularly exciting. It does drive performance on. It's a hugely important part of kind of keeping on top of a search account. Manually curating of campaigns also leaves room for human error. People make mistakes. They write things incorrectly. They forget things. And that's, we're all capable of that. What inventory management allows customers to do is to quickly build accurate and up-to-date coverage using feeds and templates. So when we're talking about feeds, that could be a Google Merchant Center feed. When this feature was first built out, it was predominantly retailers that we were thinking of, but actually the applications go far beyond retail and into pretty much all sectors. So when we say feeds, it can be Google Merchant Center, but it can be a non-retail feed in the form of an XML file, Google Sheets, an Excel upload. We've got an API connection that's very open. If you've got some sort of tabled data that you want to pass to us and for us to consider as a feed, then we pretty much can do it with anything. Templates are then applied on top of this. So to dynamically create campaigns, ad groups, keywords, ad copy, location extensions, site links, call outs, just about any kind of functionality or feature in Google Ads, all the formats, are available to be built through a templated process. So what that lets people do is very quickly and accurately build comprehensive coverage across all of their product set. So whether that's genuine products and SKUs, so items for sale on their website, or it's destinations for a travel company, or restaurants for a food company, or different configurations of cars for an auto advertiser. What this lets you do is create coverage for all of those different combinations, all of those different products, and make sure that your messaging is always up to date, reflected by the feed. So if you update something in the feed as frequently as you send updates on that feed, we'll update ad copy, we'll update coverage. So it means you're never liable to be promoting out of stock products, and making sure that you're never using messaging that's non-compliant, out of date. So we see the application of this in all sectors, and all of them have varying degrees of their account exposed to this kind of tech. We do have customers that use it to run all of their search account, like absolutely everything's in it. More common is that customers will use it to build out the longer tail aspects of a generic campaign or product-based campaign, but use manual campaigns or some combination of manual and inventory management for their brand and kind of hero terms. But what we tend to see is that there's an incremental boost in traffic because customers are able to cover far more keywords and far more products, and there's a boost in performance as well because you've got a highly aligned ad copy to keyword, landing page to keyword, which gives you a good quality score, gives you a good customer journey with a higher likelihood to convert. We also find that the kind of terms that inventory management tends to lend itself to, the sort of longer tail keywords, are less competitive and therefore have a lower CPC. So you get a boost in traffic, you get a boost in performance, and it also saves you a bunch of time on these kind of weekly, daily tasks that everyone has to go through.
Thank you, Jamie. That was excellent. And just to bring this into line with a partner of ours, so Ambassador Theatre Group, who are a large stockist of theatre tickets. So they, as you can imagine, have pretty fast changing stock, all sorts of changes in availability and pricing on a pretty frequent basis. So as a challenge, their marketing teams had to keep up with those changes. The solution was to set up inventory management, which then just helped automate all keyword coverage and ad copy as well to reflect the entities in the feed. So that made sure as prices changed, that was reflected in the ad copy to improve the attractiveness of each ad and a stronger call to action as well. Off the back of that, results driven, they saw CPCs decrease by almost 30%. But the main one here, keyword management time, dropped by 93%. So a pretty powerful and enabling solution there for that particular partner. Moving on to the second initiative, so performing advanced bidding. Some of the most common challenges that our partners come to us with are we are spending too long optimizing our bids manually. And that can also incorporate maybe they're missing opportunities to optimize outside of working hours. We keep overspending on our PPC budgets, whether that's a recurring monthly budget for all activity, or whether that's an individual campaign sprint. And the same is true, perhaps, that they're unable to spend all of their budget over a certain period. And then thirdly, we're too slow to react to new opportunities, whether that's to save on underperforming areas or to reinvest and capitalize on high growth or high achieving areas. Now, where Search Ads 360 can bring some solutions to each of those problems are auction time bidding, which Jamie will take you through in a moment, budget bid strategies. It's important, sorry, I've missed an important point here. So Search Ads 360 automated bidding or bid strategies sit at portfolio level. So you would create them in the interface within one portfolio, and that can then be associated at campaign level across multiple engines. So the scale and scope here is that you can have a lot of activity working towards a shared conversion goal or a shared objective. So coming back to the budget bid strategies, in this case, the main objective here will be to deplete a budget. You can add secondary goals, whether that be target CPA or target ROAS, and you can also add further constraints just to add peace of mind along the way. And also then there's an extra function within budget bid strategies, which is budget management, which shows you opportunities to redistribute budget across your paid search campaigns as well. And the third one here, auction time bidding, as we mentioned, Jamie will cover shortly, and adaptive settings. So these are a pretty cool feature. It's a one-time opt-in at campaign level. And once you opt in, you've got 3 areas that you can give Search Ads 360 carte blanche to optimize and find efficiencies on. And those 3 areas are geolocations, product groups, or RLSAs as well. So in terms of geolocations and product groups, what Search Ads will do is look at sub-levels based on your parent targeting to break out and then add bid constraints if you're using bid strategies to optimize those. And again, to either find, to push where there's headroom or to pull back where there is underperforming areas. In terms of RLSAs, they work slightly differently. All that does is allow Search Ads access to your shared library in Google Ads, and it can pull in where it sees audiences that will add to efficiencies and improve output. So I'm just going to hand over to Jamie to take us through auction time bidding.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I think when we're talking about auction time bidding, it's useful to take a step back and think about the basics of what search marketing is and the mechanics that sit behind it. I think we can often forget that the sort of auction nature of search and the second price nature of that auction in Google Ads and in most search engine dictates that the most effective tactic available, the meta, is to assign an honest and accurate bid. You gain nothing by intentionally overvaluing or undervaluing clicks. You can't really game the system, if that makes sense. So when we say honest, we mean using an understanding of click value to determine your bid. So for example, this click is worth X to me on average because it converts at this rate, and this is how much a conversion is worth to me, and therefore my bid is that value, right? That's how much that click is worth to me, and that's how much I'm going to put into the auction. And when we talk about accurate, we mean having the right data set to determine that value and assigning it at the most granular level so that you can be as accurate as possible with your bid as well. So when we think about the history of search and the kind of progression of where we're heading to, I think keyword bidding is no longer granular enough to really succeed in search, particularly for big complex businesses. The keyword bidding race is, to some extent, has already been run. The race has already been run and has been won and lost already. The next opportunity is to take it to a level more granular than keyword. So auction time bidding allows customers to leverage bids at the auction level. So not at the keyword level, not at the query level, but actually at the auction. So every time an auction is run pre-impression, at the point that all bids are evaluated, you can now flex what your bid is in that auction. So this means you can, as an advertiser, leverage an understanding of how to assign value for every auction based on the user, their device, the time of day, the search query they're doing, which can be very, very different to the keyword. What browser they're on, what connection type they're on, is it Wi-Fi, is it a LAN cable, is it fast, is it slow? Over 100 different additional signals are available in auction time bidding strategies. They can infer whether a click is going to be more or less valuable, and you can calculate that at the auction level, or rather the system does that on your behalf. And so when we see customers employing this form of bidding on their accounts, we see an average of 15% improvement in conversions or revenue for a similar or better CPA or ROAS. So a significant step up in performance, significant step up in efficiency. There's also improved usability in terms of a shortened and one-off calibration period. I think one of the challenges with using most automated bidding tools is that you have this kind of learning process that it has to go through where you get less than perfect performance, and that can often restart every time you make a target change or something significant in the market changes, like conversion rate doubles or something like that. We have a one-off calibration that's significantly shorter than it used to be, around 3 to 5 days on average. And that's a big help. The ability to assign granular and accurate bids through periods of promotion or high traffic, things like Black Friday, means that you can have a much more successful time of bidding in periods of sort of dynamic markets. I think the ability to set bids at that granular level, the ability to ingest more signals and flex on them, give you a better potential to react to changes in the market and opportunity as well. This is probably where most bidding platforms are heading towards. If you look at SA360, we have a really close integration with the kind of smart bidding aspect of Google Ads, and this is what we call auction time bidding. I think other platforms in the market are building similar employments of bidding as well. And this is generally the direction that we're seeing, a move away from kind of keyword level bids and modifiers towards a more auction based approach to bidding.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie. Just to share an example on automated bidding as well. So another partner of ours, made.com, they had the challenge of they were happy with the performance and actually overachieved against KPIs, but what they wanted to do was still get more out of the system with less input or less staff input. What they came to do across the series of all their territories and accounts was set up a series of bid strategies and rules in combination. And off the back of that, they saw revenue increase by 44%. And part of that was driven across generic, which saw its return on ad spend improve by 25% as well. And coming now to the third initiative on the structure that we started with, so greater reporting and insight. Some of the most common challenges that our partners bring to us are perhaps we don't have a sight on our most important metrics, whether that's how they can understand to bring in data from other platforms, whether that's offline data or sales team data, for example, or perhaps they just want to start to calculate lifetime value, customer lifetime value, and bring that into the platform. Secondly, perhaps we want to report on the right customer data, whether that's consolidating several platforms into one place, or whether that's deduplicating conversions as they can be seen across different channels, leaving nothing essentially assumed that it's the right practice. And thirdly, there we want to see immediate trends during our peak days. So kind of the scale of Black Friday in the example of a retail client. So perhaps that's then just they need to see real-time performance data to help them drive then internal decisions and distributing spend across the top performing parts of their accounts. So where does Search Ads 360 fit into that? How can it help overcome those challenges? In terms of data integration, Jamie will be taking you through that in a moment's time. But also then you've got the opportunity to use formula columns. Now they are very similar to they're essentially calculated fields, and they can be used to calculate all sorts of combinations of output. So again, going back to the initial idea of Search Ads 360 being one central platform into which you can plug in several parts of your marketing channels or several sources of data, you can manipulate each of those into a single output. Customer lifetime value also, Ian and Chris took us through this last month. But actually, if you start to pull that into here or use formula columns or maybe data integration, you can then start to use those as your core conversion goal with then automated bidding solutions. So it doesn't just have to be an online conversion point that you're connecting to your bid strategies. Actually, that could be any other single point of data or combination of data. Secondly, then, social integration, a really big part and quite an underused part of Search Ads 360. So that gives you the opportunity to pull in your paid social performance data. You would track everything using your floodlight configuration. So what that allows then is deduplication of your conversions between your paid search and your paid social within Search Ads 360. Also then, because you're bringing in your impressions, clicks and cost data from your social engines, you can actually then start to remarket between the two platforms, and you can customize those lists however you need to, whether it's a user's engaged with a social ad but not search, and vice versa. And then you can create unique URLs which you then push back into your engines accordingly. And thirdly, then, data freshness is a huge part around Search Ads 360. So in pretty much near real time, perhaps a 1 hour to 2 hour delay, you can see what conversions are coming through across your activity. So really important for big days or large parts in your calendar, just where you need to see what's going on in real time. So just to hand over to Jamie to take us through our final point here, which is data integration.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I often get asked, what does a great search marketer look like? What are our best advertisers, and what do they look like? And I think more so than ever, the best use cases and best in class examples of search marketing are the ones that employ data in the most sophisticated way. We mentioned earlier the need to accurately assign value in search. Typically, everyone's understanding of digital marketing's value is tag-based. GMP, Google Marketing Platform, has a tag which SA360 leverages called Floodlight, and it allows you to capture a huge amount of information about conversions, so order IDs, revenue, and up to what we call up to 1,000 of what we call custom Floodlight variables. So that could be whether it was bought on credit, was it a new returning customer, with a high risk on a premium, with a the first 3 letters of that postcode, the color of an item, all sorts of stuff. So you can pass already a huge amount of data into the existing tag-based solutions, which I don't think many customers are kind of saturating anyway. But even if they did, there would be gaps. Gaps due to the nature of that tag, and gaps due to the limitation of what advertisers are comfortable pushing into a tag. So it's understandable that an advertiser might not want to push profit or margin based data into a tag, because it's going to be surfaced, albeit in a non-immediately visible way. It's going to be surfaced in a data layer that's going to be populated at the tag. And that's potentially too sensitive information to pass through. Also, tags have to live on a website. If a purchase is done over the phone or done in store, then it's difficult to have a JavaScript tag-based solution for those kind of conversions. And so this is where offline data, offline in inverted commas, because it can very much be online data that you're just passing to us in an offline fashion, can be of great use. So Google Marketing Platform and SA360 have conversion APIs that allow customers to pass additional conversion data to us. The only prerequisite for this really is that you attach that data to a Google Click ID, which is the GCL ID that or GCLID as it's sometimes called, that you'll see at the end of URLs that are driven through Google Ads or any engine that's tracked through SA360, or a match ID. So in the last couple of months, we've launched an integration with Campaign Manager that means you can actually pass us that data without a Google Click ID, but if there's a match ID that we can then stitch together with a Google Click ID, so that could be an order ID, for example, then we'll accept that kind of data as well. So lots of flexibility on how that data is passed, and that could be confirmed orders that happen offline or over email. It could be you've got a call tracking facility that you can pass an order ID through and send us that data. It could be in-store sales values if you're capturing email addresses or something like that in store, or an order ID in store. So more ways to basically fill in the gaps that data that maybe online tag-based solutions just can't. So that allows customers to kind of report on, attribute, and bid and optimize towards data that could include lifetime value calculations. It could include cancellations, profit data, custom attribute conversions if you've got an internal attribution model. And that means that you can more accurately realize the full value that search is driving for you. So that means you can be more aggressive with bids. It means a bidding strategy would be more aggressive. The more value that you can accurately assign into search as a channel, the more success you're going to have there, because you can bid more, you can compete more. You'll start to find the opportunities that deliver more of the types of customers that you want and more of the types of conversions that you want. And so our most advanced customers are already taking advantage of this and reaping the rewards in the forms of boosted efficiency, more traffic, more profit. I still think there's a massive opportunity to be early adopters of this. The opportunity to be first adopters of bringing this kind of information into search is gone, but it's not widespread enough now that anyone will be late to the party. I still think there's an opportunity to be an early adopter in this. So I think data is key to anybody's sort of digital marketing maturity, and that's no different on search. And we have probably one of the more open tools in terms of the ability to ingest different sources of data. Back to you, Greg.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Jamie. So just to share another partner example on this. Original Travel originally worked to an on-site conversion point, but they actually wanted to bring in their off-site data or offline conversions into Search Ads 360. So one, they could have a better understanding of what their online activity or paid marketing is doing in driving offline conversions. And then two, just better optimize across the board. So the solution here was, as Jamie's just taken us through, to onboard that offline data through the API. And that then is automated on a frequent basis. Daily is optimal for a lot of advertisers, or you can do it more frequently as well. In their case, some of the output that they saw was their online leads increased by 77% because they were able to make better decisions and had a lot more confidence in where they were spending their budget. At the same time, that cost per acquisition or cost per on-site lead dropped by 7%. So really strong output for these guys. One of the things with the slight technical hiccup at the start, you may have missed the invite or the opportunity to ask questions as we've gone through. So please, if you've had any questions that you've not yet popped into the chat, fire them through. We will be going through them in just a moment. But before we do, I'll just hand back over to Meryl.
Thanks, Greg and Jamie. So to round up this webinar session, we, Greg and Jamie explored some common marketing challenges faced by businesses and highlighted ways in which Search Ads 360 can overcome those challenges. Additionally, Greg shared some success stories from DQ&A's own partners. The next steps would be, if you're interested in hearing more, feel free to get in touch with us at uk@dqa.com. And we'll also share the slides and the recording after as well. Do you want to dive into some questions? I can see we've got one in the chat from Scarlett. Can auction time bidding be used to optimize towards offline conversions or conversions made or those made by my sales team?
Yes, is the short answer. So one of the reasons we require that Google Click ID is to give us the ability to assign the conversion at the same granularity as if it was a native tag-based conversion. So yeah, completely applicable in auction time bidding. completely applicable in attribution models. It behaves as if it was an online conversion.
Great, thank you, Jamie. Another question, can budget bid strategies manage shared budgets?
So in their original product release, they were able to only manage campaign budgets or individual campaign budgets. If a campaign had a shared budget, that wouldn't be optimized given the nature of the product. Actually, as time's moved on and as auction time bidding is starting to be rolled out across budget bid strategies as well, the technology now is able to support and optimize shared budgets across campaigns. So what it won't do, I suppose, is start to pull in or associate different campaigns to an existing shared budget. And at the same time, it won't disassociate any campaigns to or from a shared budget, but it will see and optimize across that scale or that portfolio.
Great, thanks, Greg. Another question here from Andrew. What recommendations can you provide to agencies on approaching clients about the introduction of technology for their paid search campaigns?
It's quite an open-ended question, I guess, but I think it's about one is educating people around what search as a channel is. It's predominantly a demand capture platform. I think people forget about that occasionally, and I think it's about understanding what they'd want to get out of it. I think lots of customers, depending on who you speak to, will give you a different KPI for search. If you speak to a performance marketer, they'll say the most important thing is ROAS or CPA. If you speak to a brand marketer, they'll say, actually, I just want to get share of voice or clicks or impressions. If you speak to a CFO, they'll say, actually, what I really want is my profit and my margin to be at a certain level. And if you speak to a CMO, they just want to be doing better than their competitors, maybe. So I think somewhere between all of those different KPIs lies the truth, and actually having a laser focus on one core objective of search will put you in better stead for success on the channel. So I think that's really key to success in terms of getting a customer bought into search and applying tech to it. I think it's about explaining the complexity of it. I think if I think about when I started in search nearly 10 plus years ago, it was keywords and ads. It was super straightforward. We had very basic conversion capture. There wasn't really any automation available. And there weren't things like site links. There weren't things like audiences. There weren't things like geolocations. It was, these are the keywords that I care about. This is the message I want to put against it, and this is my bid. And so even for a big customer, you could have a team of 2 or 3 grads that could easily stay on top of that. If they knew what they were doing, it was an easy task. Even if you had, let's say 200,000 keywords with a bit of Excel wizardry, you could stay on top of it. The problem is that the complexity has expanded exponentially since those days. So first it was, enhanced campaigns, and you could change your bid for different devices. So times the number of items you need to bid accurately for by 3. Then you've got location, which it can go down to a granularity of a 1 kilometer radius around a postcode. So let's say on average, a customer wants to break up the UK or whatever region they're advertising to into 100 different sub-targets, times that by 100. Maybe they've got 20 audiences. I speak to advertisers that have thousands of audiences, but let's be conservative and say 20 audiences. There's another layer of complexity times by 20. And so you very quickly, and there are more things. These are just a few examples. There are more things that that you need to be able to flex on, you need to be able to control, and you need to be able to bid accurately to, and it gets to the billions. And at that point, you could have 1,000 grads and 1,000 search professionals looking at an account, and they wouldn't be able to stay on top of it. And that's really where applying tech and automation on top of it becomes a necessity rather than a luxury. And once you've got on the tech, I think it's very easy to demonstrate the performance and benefits of it. But I think, yeah, the motivation for getting them kind of excited about it and interested in the first place would be to explain the just sheer complex nature of search these days and how impossible it is to stay on top of it manually.
Yeah, that nail on the head from Jamie. And I think one of the most common questions that we get asked as well from our agency partners on, we have a potential new client who we want to sell this tech into. How do we go about it? What are the numbers that we can put in front of them? And it's really quite challenging to get a standard number of this person or this client is in this sector, so therefore they can experience this uplift. Those kind of figures are just so different actually in the wild. When you have a look at what's the starting point of a paid search account, what's the appetite to grow that tech maturity, what's the headroom to grow that tech maturity. There's so many factors that actually make that quite a difficult number to pull out. So as Jamie's gone down there, bringing in a laser focus on what your client's objective is allows you then to build that narrative around it. And that was a great example that Jamie's just given.
Great, thank you both. I think that's all the questions we've had. So I guess thanks everyone for joining, and apologies for the technical issues we experienced at the start.
Cool. Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Jamie. And thanks everyone for joining.
A pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.